Folks, we are going to move into our roundtable discussion time. So if you're wanting to participate, I invite you to come back. Just so you know the format of this, this is not a roundtable discussion with the people sitting in these seats here. This is a roundtable discussion with all of you. All of the audience is here to participate. And the people we have sitting in these chairs, there we go.
Excuse. Oh, and just a reminder that if you want to join us up in the innovation room, Danny is facilitating up there. So please take your seats in one of the two rooms now, please. Innovation room upstairs by the pool table or down here in the main stadium. Thank you.
And if you, I'd encourage you to come down closer to the stage. So
you can come up. There's one more right there.
Let's all all right. Welcome to this first session. As I said, we have a couple mics in the audience. We want to encourage you all to connect. We want one big roundtable discussion. It is not the people in the carpet on the stage who are having a roundtable discussion. It's all of us, okay? And because the subject for this first 30-minute session is why should the community and philanthropy industry be inspired by Web3 and AI advancement? The idea is to set a direction here, to spark a conversation, and to have a wonderful ideation session where we come up with things we couldn't think of on our own. So to start this out in the spirit of AI, we have one of our featured guests, Clara, and she is going to share her insights on this to start the conversation out. So let's hear from Clara.
I think the biggest spark could ignite the community and philanthropy sectors to adopt Web3 and AI innovations is education. We need to educate people on why this technology is important, how it can help them, and how they can use it in their day-to-day lives. Additionally, mentorship programs should be available for those who are unfamiliar with these technologies so that they can learn more about what Web3 and AI have to offer. I believe incentives should be provided for those using the technology so that more people will embrace it as a part of their daily life.
That was very insightful. All right, let's start it out.
Oh, I have the mic. Woo! All right. So I couldn't agree with you more, Clara. That, I think this is a wonderful time to switch things up a little bit in terms of shifting wealth, shifting education, creating an opportunity for people who are curious to learn more about others, to learn more about the way the world works. And there is a sort of an opportunity for us to even some things out in different parts of the world. I heard you, Major, talking about people who have wonderful recipes in Jamaica that could monetize that recipe using, Web3, using AI technology, monetize that in some way to bring some kind of economic sustainability to countries like Jamaica that have been historically impoverished. And I think that's a beautiful way that we can begin to transform communities that have traditionally had no means of providing for the things that they want to do. And more importantly, once you start to ignite that ability in different people groups, how much more innovation and insight are you going to begin to have, so that you can better serve humanity, better serve people, and find these nuggets that, you know, there are things, so many things that we don't know that we might learn by opening up these markets for non-traditional people. So that's my take. Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I'm Vanessa Russell. I'm the founding executive director of Love Never Fails. We are a national anti-trafficking organization that provides housing. We provide tech training to survivors of human trafficking and other underserved community members, as well as prevention education. So,
Please begin by introducing yourself, including the audience.
Okay, so I am Helen Easterling Williams. Presently, I serve as the Vice Chancellor for Advancement at Pepperdine University. And Vanessa, I think you are spot on with your response. But let's face it, the community of disadvantaged individuals have not caught up with Web 2.0, right? We're still so far behind in Web 2.0. Web 3.0, Web 3 and AI is here. So they're already another generation or two behind. I believe that why should they be excited about this? Because if they tap in, if we help them to tap into Web 3 and AI now, then they get to skip in and be relevant when Web 3 and AI becomes prominent. It is an opportunity to bypass a lot of poverty and lack. Let's take this to the audience while we pass the mic here. Who in the audience has the mic?
We can pass the mic.
I can filibuster.
Filibuster, please.
If you like. I'm Kate Brown, founder and CEO of Lately.ai. And one of the things I think a lot about is community and how to use words and communications to tighten people together. And previously I was assisting the National Disability Institute a few years ago, and I was working with a woman who was in charge of uniting people with disabilities who were playing games. And I was interviewing her and asking why this was such an important sort of passion for her. And she said because the gaming industry at the time was, for the people that she was working with, was eliminating the discrimination and the prejudice, because they could be anybody online. And so I think if that's where we were, or that's where we are with Web 2.0, just think of where we can go with Web 3. Anybody want to jump in? Share a story? Our job is to make you guys inspired.
Yeah, hey, Dave Lorenzini I just came off a year of running an R&D lab for augmented reality and mapping and other things in Malta, in the country of Malta. And one of the things we're doing is creating a complete national map, kind of like a Google Earth map of Malta, but with people and stuff that people care about it. So we're looking at using this kind of technology to engage the citizens, the government, the businesses, could be community and philanthropy and other things, but using the Web3 tech of spatial smart contracts and kind of nested conditional kind of thing. So if you do an action or you have proof of actual presence, the efficacy of the contributions that people can do can be put on chain and be proven and be accountable and be so really looking at the benefit of the technology and trying to get the tech out of the way, but serving people in an accountable way. So that's where I see a lot of this stuff going.
I'd love to chime in here. My name is Jeff Crane, CEO of NFT, the movie entertainment company, and now AI.NYC. To answer this question, I think we can get close to home. I'm originally from Southern California in Los Angeles. Not too far from here, there's approximately 60,000 homeless. And the reason they're homeless is because they lack self-awareness. Now, when you become self-aware of your potential, what happens is you then become Batman. And where AI is going to help a Jeff Crane in school in 1980 is when I have ADD off the rails and I couldn't pay attention to my chemistry teacher, my AI assistant in my ear is helping to take notes. AI is going to fill in the weakness of those things that we all were challenged as a kid. I used to create art on my Scantron test because I was terrified of taking tests as an ADHD child in the 80s who they didn't have that terminology back then. So where AI is going to come in is it's going to replace that weakness so that that person who's living in that tent can turn into a Jeff Crane because they have that capacity. That's what it's for. It's not we can use fancy terminology that people feel so far away to actually access. It's that it will come to us. Thank you.
Josh had a good acknowledgement here. Can I? But not a weakness. Not a weakness.
Ed, you want to go ahead, audience?
That was beautiful, Jeff. You always have something so just brilliant to say. Don't for a second discount whatever condition you think you have, because actually that's made you who you are. That's a really important point. But going back to Web3 and AI.
What's your name, Ed?
Oh, my name is Ed Prado, and I'm the CEO of Rare. And we've played a lot with NFTs and Web3. And the big takeaway I've done a lot of philanthropy in the past, and the sort of connector here is that Web3, and I think AI as well, I haven't really gone that far, but Web3 in particular, it really fills the gap being the information gap and the accessibility gap. And if we can work on those two, then the flywheel hits this third element that's beautiful, which is the transparency gap. So often you give money to a charity or you give money to some sort of thing that you believe in, and the money is misappropriated. Web3, if handled properly, we're working on a lot of minting mechanisms and royalty management mechanisms that go back to this. Like, hey, I'm giving money to the rainforest, and it's going to actually help the rainforest. And that digital token that I have is going to actually bring me to the rainforest through some sort of multimedia experience and show me where my money's being spent. That is going to transform philanthropy, because all of a sudden there's that level of transparency, and then there's the huge gap of filling the gap of accessibility. And I think that when you put all that together, and I guess you'd sprinkle some AI on it, and then all of a sudden it just takes off.
What were those three things again?
I'm sorry? Yeah, and accountability, right.
Oh. Mic switch. Got it. Hi, my name is Josh Lawler. I'm a partner at the law firm Zuber Lawler, and I work a lot with new technologies. I'm also a securities attorney, an IP attorney, and have a just off-the-charts set of ADHD characteristics, which I consider myself to be well compensated. And that maybe is a little bit of the point, because what we've got going on here is a giant paradigm switch. We have a situation, and I'm talking about distributed ledger technology, where the information gap is closed up, because from a ledger perspective, everybody can have the same information. And that does some really amazing things, including allowing non-fungible tokens. Just to give kind of one example, everybody's familiar with the non-fungible tokens that are art and collectibles. And I'll talk with a lot of people, and they'll talk about how this is absolutely ridiculous. What are these valuations? Oh my God, it's all scams. But what people tend to miss is the fact that it's completely democratized the art world, because you don't have to be in New York. You don't have to be in Milan. You can be in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, or Ames, Iowa, or absolutely anywhere else and get your art out there. Now that's a great thing, but it's the tip of the iceberg. in terms of how things go. I mean, as far as African countries, as far as South American countries, we're figuring out ways to make sustainable housing work by putting areas on a blockchain that previously were not part of registry records because you're in South America, and that helps from a sustainable housing perspective. So, you know, it's all this and more. There's just creativity is almost the only limit. We are sitting at the edge of a just use case explosion. So everybody should be taking notice, philanthropy included.
Hi, I'm Georgia Sinclair. I'm also proudly neurodivergent, so, you know, it's good to be amongst good company here. I'm a DJ and producer, and also a virtual creator. I build avatars. Some of you, I think, were at the event last night at Red Pill, where I was performing as one of my avatars, so that's how I fit into this world. I'm not directly associated with any philanthropic causes as of yet, although I aspire to be, but I think the biggest takeaway for me that I've learned thus far from observing what other people are involved with is the accessibility point. One brilliant example that I can think of is when the war broke out in Ukraine and people were really struggling to get access to money and resources. And the Web3 community rallied and raised a lot of money via cryptocurrency and was able to actually send that directly to the people who were stuck inside the Ukraine. And I think that's the most powerful thing about this, isn't it, is that you can bypass these dictatorships or these war zones and actually reach the people and give them the resources they need. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that, and that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that and just like underscore the point, because what happened there is truly amazing. You have a war breakout and you have economic aid coming from people, not from governments. So no diplomacy involved, no treaties involved, no politics involved. People sent millions of dollars of aid and military assistance. That's insane. I mean, think about that, really.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I want to thank everybody I want to thank our Clara for starting this. You know, Major Dream Williams. I've been involved in over 30 different NFT blockchain projects. Currently a co-founder of Seeds of Freedom, where we are launching a new cryptocurrency backed by seeds with an insurance wrap. So that's what I really like to do, really impact people from the ground up, especially because garbage in, garbage out. And if we're taking in bad food, I can't really trust your coding. I can't really trust what you're building, because it might be garbage at the end of the day. So so it starts off from the beginning. But I say there's two things that I always like people to meditate on in terms of like words: trust and permission. Those are the things that are the biggest takeaways for me when it comes to Web3. Because you going into this, you have to understand, how do you trust people? If you're into philanthropy and you're giving your hard-earned money, how can you trust that they are going to use it the right way? The beauty about blockchain is that level of trust that you have to have, a high level of understanding who people are and misjudgment of people, goes away because of the smart contract. If you got a problem with it, just check the code. And once a transaction is done, it can be put on the blockchain. It can be an NFT. It's immutable, you know. But permission for these communities that are underserved, that's the issue, right? You would think like, oh, it's tech. Oh, I have to already had been in tech, or I have to have money already to get involved. When you don't need permission to get involved in this. This is permissionless. So this idea of disenfranchised, see, this is why it's important to also put it on the blockchain, because this idea of disenfranchised is something that people get to when they don't have anything to build on top of. So you have to kind of keep going with this loop of a story. So once you're able to put your accomplishments, your creativity, your intellectual property, these are the generational bits and pieces that you can pass on so people can build on. Because none of us in here know what's going to be valuable 300-500 years from now. right? So every little bit matters. Whereas before you could burn books, you can lose land titles, you can, the oxygen happens and these things age things and they burn and they die. Like so this right here, I think, can, for every community that is looking for value and a use to exchange value because they don't have fiat money, like, you get to give value to something that you and your community believe in. Like, I don't have to deal with, but like, if I don't even want to save a war-torn country, but we believe that we need this over here, we can have a community and trade back and forth. So if you understand what the law of money is just a bunch of agreements, right? So I agree that you're going to give me what I'm asking for on the other side, and this is what we're going to use to exchange it. So if we use this technology correctly, we get to give everybody their own shot, their own chance. Because for me to bring you to play in this game that's been running along, you have 1,000 years to get caught up. But if we give the technology to you where you're at, you don't have to catch up so much. You can get to use it and then allow that community to build value. And yeah. So that's, I try to give people some hope in that sense. So good stuff.
Helen Easterling Williams once again. I don't believe I have sound in this mic. Can you hear me? All right. But I'm hearing terms such as, thank you, transparency, accessibility, accountability, wonderful ideas. We as a community will need to protect that because that's what brings value to the local community, to the philanthropy. We will need to protect that. There are, and I'm trying my very best to stay below that line of name calling and all of that, but we have to be very, very careful not to allow blockchain and all that is good within it to be compromised by any one entity or any one person, because as long as it's out there for everyone, then we get closer to that word called equality. It's a scary thing for some people, but it, in fact, blockchain is going to be a super answer for us all. We have someone in the audience who is eager to speak. Top row. Let us.
Thank you, Helen. Reshma Block. I'm here with Tricon. I'm the head of innovation and technology here, but I'm glad we started with this topic. About 15 years ago, I personally decided that my life purpose would be to leave my community better than I found it. Whether it's Orange County, whether it's Southern California, whether it's where my kids are from in India, whatever my community is, that became my life purpose. So I got involved in a lot of nonprofits here in Orange County. We have over 600 service providers here locally. I serve on the board of the Orange County Community Foundation, of Hoag Hospital, help domestic violence shelters that support South Asian women. And the thing that I know that we have incredibly, awesome, very generous donors. And what connects them to the service providers they support is that sense of feeling and making a difference. And where I think technology, I think Web3 needs to take a step forward, is how do we outfit and connect those service providers to the folks that want to make a difference so that they feel that way every second, every single day, not just that once in a year moment when they write that check, because of the difference that they're making constantly. That one check may have been a moment in time, but it's making a difference for the entire year. And so how can we bring that sense of fulfillment to every single person who wants to make a difference constantly, even if they're not the ones providing that service?
So I love that. And he has a comment. But I wanted to go back to Helen's comment and just talk a little bit about education. So one thing that is, I think, super important, and when we're looking at things from a philanthropic standpoint, is to not only invest the money, but in caring for, you know, maybe certain people groups, or making sure that the tech is where it needs to be in order to do what it's doing to serve certain communities, but also that make sure that people know that. And here's the thing, I want people to understand, folks about tech, just basic tech, teaching people what an IP address is, teaching people what's happening when you go on the Wi-Fi network. You know, this basic, not just being users, but understanding what's under the covers. And when you're talking about Web3, you're talking about AI, it's so foreign to so many people in the inner city. I can tell you, growing up in a home where in poverty myself, you know, having been in foster care, having been homeless, and all of these different things, these were not around the table discussions. And so we have to start also not just developing the tech, but being very intentional about imparting the tech to the communities that need it, which means outreach. It means being present. It means sending culturally relevant people. Not just people that are the smart ones, but the ones that look like the ones that are there, to say, this is how you apply this to your real life. And this is something that's a little challenging because it's going to require some investment in some non-traditional people and non-traditional pathways in order to get this message out. But if we're really serious about breaking that divide, we have to be intentional about that. So
I love this conversation about education and tied into accessibility, because so in the AI field, there's a massive fear which is preventing these two things, right? And I want to level set everyone around artificial intelligence really quickly. So sorry, Hollywood, it's not that. What you have created as artificial intelligence is actually called magic. And I hate to tell you, Harry Potter fans, I am one. Magic does not exist yet. I'm working on inventing it, you know, but it's not there yet. And what I like to say, and I think this is so important to reduce the fear about artificial intelligence, if you think of AI as a human, you know, humans, we're the mammals that when we're born, we're helpless. We can't defend ourselves, we can't stand up, we can't feed ourselves. We rely on other humans for our very existence. AI is the same way. The human connection is so essential for it to grow and be successful at doing whatever it is we want to do. So I think of AI as like a 3-month human being. That's where we are, you know, in the grand scheme of how it's working. It's pretty helpless, right? Requires human involvement, human training. That education, I think, is so important because most people who come to any idea of AI really do think it's magic, right? So there's disappointment. Of course, which we don't want that, and that fear piece. I think if we can really emphasize that there's this human connection that must be a part of it, not only does that reduce the fear, but then it also accentuates our usefulness, right? Where it's a combination, it's a collaboration.